co-host Jazz, and we have our other co-host Shaka. He shall be back in soon. And today, guys, we have a very, very special guest. I am so excited to introduce him. We have Mr. Robert Holmes himself. Welcome, Mr. Holmes. How you doing today?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Queens. How are you? Thank you for having me on your platform.
Oh, my goodness. It is our honor to have you here, sir. It is our honor.
And most definitely, thank you for letting me share my story.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, of course. It is important for people to hear your story, and it's important for you to get it out there. So today's podcast, guys, I want to get so much information out to you, and I want Mr. Holmes to share his story with you guys, and hopefully it'll touch someone and inspire someone and help someone come out of a situation that others may not know that they're in currently. So, Mr. Holmes, I met you via Facebook through the podcast network. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So,
I have been,
go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Robert Holmes, born in New York, New York. I'm currently living in the Bronx. Played for a basketball program some time ago when I was a youth. And some things happened over there that led to some other things happening throughout my life. And I have a story to tell.
Yes, sir. You know what, Mr. Holmes? I said I don't normally post in the podcast networks because, I don't know, I've always kind of been shy of trying to get other podcasters to come on my podcast. But I put up a statement. I said I need a guest. And you were, I think, maybe the third person to reply. And I was like, okay, let me inbox him. And then when you start talking to me, you started sharing my story, I said, you know what, this is nothing but God. Because this is what we do on my podcast. We like to encourage people, and we like to get valuable information out there and stories like yours in front of people so that it can help change their lives and help them to move forward in things. So, Mr. Holmes, again, like I said, I want to start out by saying thank you. And you said that you're from New York, New York. So you have a story that you want to tell. And unfortunately, your story is like so many other young men and so many young girls' stories that we heard around the world. And sometimes they're often silenced. So you were a basketball player, am I correct?
Yes. During the ages of 12 to 15, I participated with a program called the Riverside Church Hawks. It's a nationally acclaimed AAU program designated to take youths between the ages of 12 to 17, and we go around nationally. We play in different tournaments. This particular team that I played for was the #1 team out of New York City, and actually was the poster for the AAU athletic that we have today.
Wow! So you guys are where it began.
Yes.
Oh wow, that is
that
is an accomplishment in itself. So Mr. Holmes, I'm gonna actually get straight into it. So during your time during that program, some things happened to you at a very young age. You said you were about 12?
Yes, I first entered into their program at the age of 12. I was freshly off of a championship in grammar school. And we had a young man on our team that had already played for this particular program. So I took a summer off and I worked on my game, and I actually tried out for this program, and I made it. And that was one of the brightest things that have ever happened to me as a youth. But like I said, at every light side of the court, there's also a dark side of the court.
Yes, it is. So Mr. Holmes experienced sexual abuse by the hands of one of his coaches when he was playing for this league. So, Mr. Holmes, I wanted to ask, well, first of all, I want to say sorry. I'm so sad that this happened to you. And my first question is, when you said at the age of 12 it started, but how did it start out? Was it just normal, just, hey, come over here, I have some snacks, I have cookies, and, normal things like that? And then how did it progress into abuse?
Well, I think before I answer that, let me go into a little background.
Okay, yes, give us a little background.
who was the owner of this particular program, because I think that in order to understand how things progress, you need to know actually who this gentleman was. This gentleman was a multi-millionaire. He was a attorney for several leveraged buyout firms. He owned several subsidiaries of that leveraged buyout firm. He also was the deacon, the financer, and also the founder of that particular program. So this gentleman was not only well-renowned in regards to the athletic circle, he was a very strong political and financial person as well. But fast forward, it's all normal like any other program when you go play. I mean, this particular program was the number one, like I said. And so I made the team, and and the funny thing about it is I never actually got a chance to even see Coach. I mean, he was pretty much just like all person. I could never get to see him.
Wow.
But I finally got a chance to see him. I actually got a chance to see him on the night we were doing a drill, and I was doing particularly well that night on that drill. And he stopped the program. He stopped the practice, rather. Excuse me. And he said, anybody can make that shot, but can you make a free throw? And there's a drill over there at Riverside Church that we're renowned by. We're excellent free throw shooters, rather, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you're given this drill where as though you get 3 free throws and you need to make all 3, and the amount of free throws that you lose, you actually get the paddle for that, right? And that was known, renowned all through the AAU circuits. So this particular night,
a paddle, like,
that drill.
I'm sorry, a paddle. Can you elaborate? What does that mean? Like a kind of form of discipline?
An actual paddle that one would use. I guess it was more relevant back in the days. Catholic schools wore, but a paddle that you use for actually paddling a boat. But in a more miniature fashion, it was a wooden paddle with some tape around it, actually.
So you guys got disciplined with that for missing shots?
Yes, ma'am.
And this was allowed?
Well, here's the thing. This gentleman was so big of a prominent figure, and again, I'll do a little research. Riverside Church was the place that this took place. Mm-hmm. And back in the 60s, Riverside Church was established by the Rockefellers to have a church which had no real denomination that welcomed in any other denominations, and plus there was an influx of minorities coming into that area at that time. Back then in the 60s, that was predominantly, an Italian area. And so we had an influx of the Spanish, the black gentlemen or sisters that we came into the neighborhood. So Rockefeller came up with the idea where we'll build this humongous church, and we'll have programs up in there other than the church. And this other program was the athletic program. So it wasn't so much as though that it was, I want to say because to the date, it still goes on if you do the research on Riverside Church. But my particular time going there, he was bigger than life. I mean, he brought finance to Riverside Church. This is when Riverside Church was on the up in regards to becoming the dominant church figure it is today. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty much going on for years.
So it was on the rise to be a mega church.
Yes, what Riverside is. That today it's a mega church, but prior to it becoming that, the basketball program is what really brought the notoriety and the look to Riverside. So plus this gentleman was on the board of directors of Riverside. He was a deacon. I mean, when they do corporate minutes, he's there. So any type of complaints or we're finding that now because I'm actually in court with Riverside now, but there were complaints for years, but they got swept underneath the rug because, some poor black kids or Spanish kids coming in to play a little basketball is not more important than us bringing financial gain and political notoriety.
Right. So that man had accumulated enough power where he pretty much knew what he was going to do. So he was just pretty much lining his ducks in a row, because you don't gain that type of power for no reason. You want to control a lot of things. So he had plans for him to be the head honcho around there. So that's basically what it was.
That's pretty much who he was.
And so how did you gain his attention? Were you one of the star players, or what made you stand out the most where he wanted to come to you and tell you what you said about your free throws? What do you think it was that garnered his attention for you?
Well, I believe that it was a bigger plan than just the free throws. Again, I hadn't met him until that point. But I struggled for years, and that was one of the questions why I had went back to him later on, to find out if I definitely was that player, or could I have been a player other than just me being your boy toy, quote unquote. And but there's a process. It's called the grooming process, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with that.
Yes,
and
sir.
the grooming process, or his field of target was single young black mothers who have absent fathers in the home, who's struggling financially, and they're looking for a way out. I mean, impoverished kids that had a special talent.
Yeah, so that's usually how predators operate, especially those who come in sheep's clothing. So basically, he seen that the area was a struggling area. He took his players and act like he wanted to mentor you guys, huh? Pretty much is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I call it a process which is called the dandelion effect, right?
The
In my
dandelion,
book
okay.
That we'll talk about a little later, I labeled him as a dandelion. If anyone knows what a dandelion is, that's one of the prettiest flowers in your garden that you may have. But this flower has no real purpose and no real value to you other than to destroy and strangle the other roots in your garden.
That's true.
So pretty much Ernest Lloyd's was that dandelion. He came with great intentions, and he gave that big farce of, I'm the community savior. I have all of these kids' best interests at heart, but deep below the soil, he was strangling all our brothers and sisters and denied them of really excelling to where they would have been.
I love that you said the dandelion effect, because when we're young kids, think about it. When we see dandelions, we would go pick them and bring them to our grandparents, our mothers, because as kids, we thought they were the most beautiful thing. We thought they were flowers of value. And so I like how you use that, because a child seeing someone like him, they're thinking, oh my goodness, look at this guy. He's larger than life. I've never seen no one around here like that. If this guy was to be able to be in my life and help me out, I can do great things too. So yeah.
That was the catch. That was the catch, sister. I mean, you just hit it right on the nose. And as youth, I mean, we all came up in the 60s, 70s. Maybe we have some 80s babies on here as well. We grew up impoverished. I mean, and so when someone comes to your hood who bears these great fruits and tell you all these great things, you wouldn't. And then, you come from a single family, a mother who's struggling with her son or daughter, you pretty much, he gained the trust of not only the children, but the parents as well.
So, Mr. Holmes, I'm not even going to lie. I'm struggling with this interview, because it's such a delicate question that I want to ask you, but I really want to know, when did it start? And if you can give us a little bit of, not too much of a description, but tell us what did the abuse entail? So when was the first time this man hurt you? When was the first time? And do you...
Well, I want to say, well, actually I know, but I want to say that the first time that sexual abuse was encountered was the evening of my failing to do the free throw drill correctly. So what would happen is, a bunch of us, because not all of us won that drill, we'd line up outside of an office. And this was the first time that I'm thinking I'm going in this office. Actually, I'm thinking me going into this office is a badge of honor, right? Because I've never gotten this close to coach. I mean, I hear all these things that coach can do, and I know what my intentions is. I want to get my family out the hood. I want to become this NBA player, or at least try to maximize the talent that God had given me. So we had lined up on this free throw drill, and mind you, we see all types of NBA players, because this particular program had over 60 NBA players. Rather, they went to NBA, CBA, overseas. Some of the guys that we look at on TV now that commentate, we'll get into that a little later as well, they all participated. So as a young child and you're seeing all this, you're actually saying, this is what I need to do. Mm-hmm. I'm actually along my way. I'm being a part of the process. But so I go into the office and we talk about, the first thing that we talk about is my family structure. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not basketball. It's not anything else. He asks me about who's at home. I tell him that it's me, myself. But let me leave myself at the end. My mother, my brother who passed away, and myself. My father wasn't in the picture. He asked where we lived at. Logistics was very important, right, for what we discussed. And then the last question is financially, what's going on in the household. So as a young man, you disclose those things.
Because you're thinking he cares.
Right. Because now, again, you're thinking you're getting one step closer to that process, right? Mm-hmm. And I know I have talent, so I'm not thinking anything else. So along the way, while we're talking, he literally asked me to pull my shorts all the way down, both my shorts and my underclothes. And of course, bells and whistles go off. You think, but again, I'm here. Like, we all at the end of the day knew it was wrong, man, but we all wanted to be Riverside Hawks, right?
Right.
So now what happens is you begin to start fondling me and touching my genitalia in the auspice of that you're measuring me for a jockstrap. At that young age, 12 years old, a jockstrap, we don't wear jockstraps, but this is how he camouflaged it in regards to that. We go from front to back in regards to that. And okay. It was long, but it was quick. In young man's eye, it seemed like eternity. But again, like I said, I'm off base, but I think that I'm just got a base hit, I guess. I'm getting ready to round these bases to become this NBA player. So he says to me, don't tell anyone. I'm not going to give you any type of punishment tonight, but don't tell the other guys that. You're my special player, right? That's the code name, special player, right? You're my special player. And so he gives me a couple of dollars and tell me to go ahead on out. And when you leave out, you see everyone's faces, right? And I guess I had one of those faces just like all the others. Because in my book, I talk about how some of the faces had smiles, some had pride, some had confusion, know? And I guess I was all of the three wrapped up in one. But if you want to say that, and now if we move on, and as you move on, the abuse escalated because the first thing I would do is go home and tell my mom, hey, man, I'm on this team, we're doing this, we're doing that, he cares about me. So now my mom believes he's a father figure, right?
Right.
So, now before you know it, I'm up at Riverside Church every day straight from school.
Right. So I want to ask you a question. That night after that happened, what was your thought process after you went home? Could you process what had just happened to you?
I don't think that you process it. I can't say that I processed it, sister. Mm-hmm. All night. I may not have slept that whole night thinking about it, if that's the question that you're asking me. If you're asking me if I thought about it, yes. But processing it at that 12 years, at that young age, due to counseling and understanding what happened to me now, there was no way that I could process that at a 12-year-old.
Right.
I could only accept it, or at that point, I'm only going to accept reject it.
Probably thought, okay, this is what happens. Might be what happened.
Right, because, again, like when you leave out of there, you see people like, you see NBA greats.
Right.
NBA future greats, college greats, high school greats. We were, once we made that program, we're in. That's like the Yankees farm team.
Yeah. So there was something else that you said to me that stuck out. And guys, you guys can chime in whenever you want to, Shaka and Jazz. What you said was, he said to you after he was done, go ahead home. I'm not going to discipline you. As if he still turned that around as if you done something wrong. And this man, he just did the most foulest thing ever. But predators had that type of control over young minds where they don't recognize that something bad just happened to them. And they have this thought process, okay, I messed up. And they don't often come forward. Is that kind of what you felt a little bit? You just felt like, okay, I messed up.
Yeah, well, I struggled with that up until a few years ago because I denied counseling for a long time, right? And so a lot of times I would blame myself for what happened. I would question myself for what happened. And again, through counseling and understanding what happened to me now, I think that when you understand that and you go through that process, you go from being the victim to a survivor.
Wow.
Right? And so, but yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Guys, do you guys have any questions for Mr. Holmes?
I do. Like, was he ever prosecuted, or is it like, is he, like still out here at this place to this day? Like,
No, well, what happened was I had released the articles, or I actually sat down and I first became public with this in the year 2002. One of the things that was the problem was that there's a statute of limitation which did not allow him to be criminally prosecuted because the statute had run. And no one... Go ahead. I'm sorry, Queen.
No, I was saying that's bullshit. Like, I feel like he still should have been, like, I feel like crimes like that shouldn't have no statute
of limitation at all.
As to somebody 30 years ago, you should still be prosecuted for it fully, but that's just me.
Well, I'll tell you what, sister, right? Here's the great thing, and here's the thing why I love Mario Cuomo so much. We have a law that's named after me. It's the Robert Holmes law. It has a lot to do with the new Child Victims Act that allows everyone to go back now and to sue those accusers some 30 years ago. And right now, I actually was at Albany when Cuomo and us signed that bill when it came into act, which is a great thing, right?
Best
So,
thing
but
he
to answer
did.
the question, I'm sorry, sister.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was saying that's the best thing he did.
Right, right. So, but to answer your question, right, Mr. Lloyd's had, see again, I say Mr. Lloyd's, right? And that's always going to be a part of my counsel because I still say Mr. Lloyd's, right? For someone who had done what he done to me, I still owe him in that regard to say Mr. Lloyd. So it's still a work in progress, right? But to answer your question, Coach Lloyd's coach, he wound up finally, after I got about two other accusers to come forward. One was my cousin, right? So we come forward and he actually get him to be arrested through taking a young man some 20 years ago across state lines and doing the same thing to him. So right before they went to start trial, he passed away. I mean, there's some other things that went along prior to that, but I don't want to get long-winded. But to answer this question, right when he was about to face justice, he died.
Mm-hmm. So that's jacked up, and I hate that for y'all because that man needed to face justice, and I hope he's going to face it in the afterlife. But my next question for you is, what gave you the strength to come forward and tell your story? You said you came forward, and now did you publicly come forward in about 2000? You said, or did you tell your mother the first time you came forward? Did you tell your mother, and y'all kind of what happened with that?
Well, the first time with my mom, we approached Coach one-on-one. We'll get into that. But the first time that I came forward was in 2002 of April. A front news story was done with the Daily News, the Post, the Times, Channel 7, 2, 4, 11, stating that $2 million in hush payments was given to a coach in regards to keep quiet about sexual abuse that he experienced in that program. And at that time, I was incarcerated in federal prison. And so his testimony and him being a part of my trial, him paying lawyers for my trial, him paying lawyers to throw my trial, all of those things came in the forefront through that article. And just until recently, they're still reporting on it, yes.
Wow. So, oh my God. So I know that this affected your life in many ways, but what's the major way you think that the abuse that you received from this coach affected you?
Well, I think for a long time, I had a problem in relationships. I've been diagnosed being manic at times. bipolar. I've been diagnosed with being bipolar due to things that have happened that's been attributed to the abuse. But going back to the relationship issues, I had a big domestic problem abuse with my paramours. I found out once through counseling that I attributed sex and relationships with abuse, punishment. After. One of the things that I would do for a long time is after sex, I would always apologize and say I'm sorry after the actual sexual encounter, which was attributed to Coach saying that to me after he did the things to me. So some of the things that I had an issue with me and my mother. I blamed her for a while, saying that she should have known. You know what I mean? She should have stopped this. I actually felt at one point that Mom threw me into the lion's den. You know? I mean, and again, through counseling and again through becoming a survivor, I now understand that those things were not the case. Me and my mom have an excellent, super excellent relationship.
I'm happy about that.
Me and my wife currently now, we've been together for about 22 years. My problem with any physicality, anything like that was long gone.
Good.
And I just again thank the powers that be that I'm a survivor. So you know, and that's pretty much what me coming forward is all about.
Yes.
Being able to help other young men and women come out and understand and know that it's okay that they can become a survivor and it's okay to share their story.
Yes. And so I'm sorry, this has been literally the hardest story for me because it's so delicate because you never know what you may say that can trigger a person, you know? And I really wanted to ask, when did you start seeking counseling? Because back in those times, counseling was a taboo for Black households. So when did you actively started seeking counseling? I know you said, did you do any counseling as a young man, or was it just in adulthood?
No, and since we're being candid, you know, to be honest, the first time that I ever even thought seriously about counseling, because counseling to me, like you just mentioned, sexual abuse is taboo in our minority communities. I mean, everyone tuned in, everyone that we speak to knows someone that has been abused, or even in our families, we used to say growing up, right? I don't like Uncle Jimmy or Aunt Betty because he doing funny stuff, so I don't want to go over there or whatever, right? And so the first time that I actively
stop jumping
counseling, because
stop jumping, I can hear it on
camera. A fledgling recording label. I own several nightclubs. I own several recording studios. I was in California, so for me, really, even to come forward or even pay that any mind at that point was taboo, right? Because as a Black man, I'm not going to ruin myself with that. But I actually went to federal prison in the year 2000 for felon in the possession of a firearm. And so in federal prison, I was having difficulty with authority. Okay? So at that point, right, I'm thinking that anybody also of authority was looking to abuse me. They had no good intention for me. I was having difficulty with that. And so one day I sat with a psychiatrist in Farrington federal prison system, and he's the first one that gave me the diagnosis of what he thought he was. Again, I felt too macho to go and actually sit down and participate. But fast forward years later, when I released from federal prison and I'm living my life with my family, I actually meet a psychiatrist who I sat with, and I actually looked forward to going to sit with him. I could identify with him, because here's the thing, a lot of the psychiatrists got enamored with my story. I mean, I had millions and millions of dollars. I lived the best lifestyle. And so they get caught up into that. So the actual treatment goes out the window. But this particular psychiatrist was different. And he identified my problem. I went through the course with him. I did about 2 years with him, and he actually gave me coping mechanisms that enable me today to say that I'm a survivor.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful, and I'm happy that you found that, because you never know how God is going to lead you. Because you may not have found that person out here in the streets, that one particular person who was going to take the time and help you to work through your issues and help you to identify them. Because I think it is important for people to understand their pains and their triggers, and I hope that's what he helped you to understand. So do you think maybe because of this abuse you were in and out of prison?
I believe that it played a part. I believe that it played a big part. But I also believe as well, me being a hard-hit young kid growing up in poverty and growing up and trying to help my mom and get us into a better place, I made bad decisions. But to answer your question again, yes, it played a big part on it. Later on in life, I found out how it affected me, actually how I wound up in federal prison. Like I said, I suffered for a long time as a manic depressive. A lot of things I used to do, I can't do. I at one point owned 26 cars, everyone with a price tag of like $100,000, right? So I had an issue with going into anywhere, not cars, jewelry, women, just anything. I had an issue with going in places, and I was a compulsive buyer because I had the means to do that. And this, because of the abuse, because of how he treated the abuse, how he covered the abuse, it enabled me to have a codependence and be able to feel like those are the things that I needed to
you feel like that was your outlet. That was your outlet for your pain. And we have a lot of people who have outlets like that. Some people who go through abuse, their outlet is sex. And I know that sounds crazy. It's just something that they work on. Some people's outlet is drugs. Some people, they still lay in the ball like a baby just to cope. I know people going through that right now. And so my next question, and my panel, join in anytime, because y'all just got me talking. Y'all just got me talking.
Feel free.
Yes, feel free. I know it's just delicate, and I know that they're just, it's hard.
I am I'm lost for words. Like, I don't know what the hell to say right now, Mr. Holmes. Like, you hear about this stuff every day. First of all, I just want to give you, I want to commend you for what it takes to come out and tell your story, because there's no respect when it happens to us, to men.
No.
And it's considered weakness to go through therapy, is considered weakness to tell your story or something. Your reputation's on the line when you do something like that, So it's commendable that you would come out there and throw everything to the wind and say, I need this. So I just want to commend you.
Yes.
I don't have any questions at the moment because I'm just so flabbergasted, but I definitely do want to get that off and let you know that,
yes,
your story is appreciated, and I pray that this helps save somebody else.
Right. And to piggyback off of Shaka, that was actually going to be my next question. What gave you the strength to come forward? Because like he said, men don't have the same support, especially black men, don't have the same support as women to actually let their guards down and say, this happened to me. We've seen it happen to Terry Crews, and he's a grown man. And people laughed at him. They ridiculed him. And this had to be the hardest thing that you had to go through. What gave you the strength to come forward with this, and what was your support system like?
Well, I think, thank you. I wanted to say thank you to Shaka King for chiming in, and I thank you because, see, one of the things that is strong about our panel right now, that we get a chance to be able to hear this, we have a chance to pass it on to others and try to spread this message, right? But to answer your question, I think that I woke up one day and I understood that I have to sacrifice my stature or my resume or my street cred, like Shaka mentioned, or whatever it may be, to give the millions, or hopefully I can get 2 or 3 or 4 to listen, but the millions of other survivors or people that this happened to, give them a voice and give them the courage to say that it's okay to speak about what's happening. I think that God has told me that I need to be the voice for this, especially in our minority communities, because we hear about it in corporate, we hear about it in Hollywood, but it never reaches down to where we're at.
Right.
And I'm feeling like I have to be that voice. As I say, I play basketball. I play basketball against some of the NBA greats. I've been in the streets. I mean, you know, I've done music where I've got artists that are that, but I feel now that my journey, or God has given me the journey now to be the voice of our minority community, to let them know and let the message reach down there to those people that I talked about underneath the soil.
Right. So I'm trying to make sure I word this correctly. You said that, I don't even want to call him a gentleman, the predator that did this to you and so many others has passed on. If my memory is correct, because I've been interrupted where I'm at through this whole conversation, so there's some things that I missed. So if you can reiterate, that asshole then passed on, and you still have a lawsuit or criminal charges against the church or him still? Like, how does that work? What are you trying to gain from somebody who's no longer here? And did I ask that the right way?
Yes, you did, King.
Okay.
And
yeah, well, that's what I want. Yeah.
To answer that, prior to Ernest Lloyd's passing away, I had filed a lawsuit against both himself and Riverside Church.
Mm-hmm.
That lawsuit was allowed to proceed minus Riverside Church at the time, but the lawsuit against against Ernest Lloyd proceeded, and I eventually settled. He eventually settled that with me so that we didn't have to go to trial. The reason why Riverside had gotten precluded because they were the benefit at that time of the statute of limitations.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For years after that, I, along with the hundreds and thousands of others, got with the petitions and got with Mario Cuomo and got with all of the other foundations that were rallying to be able to remove that statute, because we, along with, I'm sure everyone else, thought that that statute was, one, protecting everyone. And to be honest with you, we needed actually the Catholic Church to start admitting to their wrong.
Right.
1,000%, because they had been at doing this disgusting.
I mean, they're the kings of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're the kings, right?
So
now we proceed to the signing of the Child's Victim Act,
mm-hmm.
and now I'm able now to go back in to go and sue Riverside Church for allowing this to go on and allowing this to go on in their place.
Right.
I'm currently now in court with Riverside Church, and I think in the next month or two, we're going, within the next 6 months, we should be going to trial.
Okay.
With Riverside Church, along with 13 others that I've been able to, along with my attorneys, to bring up.
Mm. And for those who don't know, Mario Matthew Cuomo is, I believe he's the former governor of New York. I believe he's Chris Cuomo, and is he Chris Cuomo's father?
No, his brother.
Brother?
His father also was in government as well, Mario Cuomo Sr.
Okay. Yeah, so when he keeps referencing to Mario Cuomo, for our viewers, that is the former governor of New York. Yes.
Does that hurt? Stupid ass question.
Now, you are from New York, Shaka.
Now, Mario Cuomo Jr. has been acquitted, I believe, of the things that he was accused of.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he does have that on his jacket,
Right.
does that hurt or help your cause?
Well, it doesn't actually affect my cause at all, because some of the things that he's been accused of happened after that bill was signed. But I think his thing didn't have to do with children. I think it had to do with him doing inappropriate things with some of his staff members.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it
yeah.
doesn't help or hurt us at all. The millions of people who filed suit on all of these people who have done this to us, it definitely speaks volumes to just, I don't want to minimize the accusers of Maricopa, but it speaks volumes over those particular, and it was two different platforms, I think.
Yeah, and I think your case was out before he was brought forth with this stuff, because that was just like recently, right?
And also, we've been trying to get this bill across for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned the young lady's name. It was called Marco. Mrs. Marco. It was the Marco bill.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we were able to get a governor who had balls enough to sign it and say that let these people either get their compensation, or let them get their voice, or let them get their due day in court.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Holmes, so I know that so far is New York and a couple of other states that have altered that law, the statute of limitation. Do you think the rest of the United States should follow suit and remove the statute, or edit the statute of limitation against sex crimes against children and women and other, men? Do you think that we all should get on that bandwagon, basically? Because when you think about sexual crimes, I think murder and sexual crimes, because I don't think there's a statute of limitation on murder, but certain crimes should not have a statute of limitation. I definitely don't think sexual crimes should have a statute. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you 100%, Queen. Sexual abuse and any type of crime against children should never have a a statute of limitation.
Mm-mm.
But even as an adult, to piggyback off of what we spoke about, now we've just been able to get the Adult Victims Act passed as well, which enables the adults to go back now and sue those people as well. So I think that the sexual abuse should not have a statute, and this is part of my mission. I wake up every day championing that, so that all 52, 53, 54 states should adopt this law.
Shaka, if you don't turn that phone off, sir, you gonna be
nobody calls.
I just told him that. I told him exactly.
Nobody calls me at all day except Scam Likely. The minute I get on there, I become the most popular person on earth. I'm so sorry.
You better turn that off. We're gonna fight.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Holmes. Shaka, put that on vibrate, please. So another question that I did, I love that you said that you're going to be champion for that. I love that. I respect that so much. And you know what? Not only were you brave enough to come forward, but you're brave enough to step into the light and fight and rally behind people who are going through this too. So you said something earlier to me that still sits in my soul, because a lot of people, I've heard this from. You said at first you blamed your mother because she didn't see it. What advice would you give mothers who are single and they're the type of, I don't want to offend anyone, but predators usually prey on the women who are brokenhearted or they're struggling financially, and they don't always have to struggle financially, because some women often they want to look for love, or they're just in situations, and these predators they feed on that, and these women aren't paying attention that these men and sometimes these women are after their babies. What advice would you give these ladies? I'm not saying that was your mother's case, but I'm saying that often when I hear stories, and I hear stories about people who are survivors, they go back to saying, I wish my mother or my father paid attention. What advice would you give them?
I think I would give all the parents today, both women and male, stop accepting the norm. And what I mean by that is, for years, we've been conditioned to accept the norm, right? One of the things that we've accepted conditioned to accept was that when our youth, such as myself or others that have been abused, started exhibiting the abuse and started acting out on it, we were conditioned to take our kids in and they'd tell us that we needed to be put on pills or medication or Ritalin or all of these different things, but they never wanted to address what it may or may not have been. I think that we would like to be a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more attentive into your children. I think that we should not accept the fact that it couldn't happen to my son or my daughter because they're too macho or they're out there in the streets.
I love
it's
that
okay
you
to
said
ask
that.
questions.
Mm-hmm. And so when he says we shouldn't accept the norms, what he means is when people says that's normal behavior for a 12-year-old. That's normal behavior for a 9-year-old. Kids are going to be kids. No, sometimes those kids are acting out the only way they know how. And they're trying to get through something is different about me. And if you have a child who does not normally act a certain way, you have people say, oh, they're hitting puberty. Oh, they're going through some changes. No, ask your children. Ask your children, what's wrong? You can talk to me.
I think a great part of that is establishing communication with your child at an early age where they're able to come to you and talk about things, maybe not necessarily about that particular subject first, but being comfortable enough to be able to talk to you about anything that affects them during their growth and development.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a traumatizing conversation to have with your parent as an adult.
Yes.
So imagine everything with a child like that's.
That's true. So
research has indicated that, Mr. Holmes, good to see you.
Hey, how are you, Coach?
Can't complain. Put the books down for a little bit so I can.
But here's the thing. Hold on, Coach. For those of you who don't know who Coach Magic is, we're working together on a book about her life. But if we could sidetrack for 2 minutes.
Yes, come on.
Coach Magic, a platform, ladies and gentlemen, to give you guys who she is and let her introduce herself, that would be awesome.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, sister. Go ahead and shine now.
Well, first, to address what you're saying, research has indicated that when boys, in particular, are going through trauma, they behave in a more aggressive way. And girls tend to withdraw. And so that's a big indication with our brown and black boys in particular, because they always feel, like you said, they want to put them on Ritalin or something else because they're acting out instead of trying to figure out what exactly is going on versus putting a Band-Aid on it.
Amen.
Exactly.
So that's something that parents need to really be aware of as well.
I love it. Okay, Coach, go ahead and take your 2 minutes of your spotlight and tell us who you are and what you represent, honey. Go ahead now.
I represent God first and foremost. I represent life, positivity, and love. I played basketball, of course. Mr. Holmes and I met through a mutual friend. It's like a sister. So we needed to meet. Our stories have a lot of similarities in them. Prior to basketball saved my life as well. Come from, like most of us, a broken home. Single parent and just trying to make ends meet. I was blessed to use basketball as an escape. Basketball took me around the world, saved my life. I've been able to talk to young people in 23 different countries in all 50 states, including the territories of Guam and Micronesia, Rhoda, the Marshall Islands. And you don't forget the trauma that you go through. You push it aside, and people don't see you. They see what you're doing. So they see that they're doing this, so they're very successful, but they're not seeing the pain that you're carrying with you, or why, when you have nieces and nephews, you have them come sit with you versus sitting on uncle or auntie's lap. And you're like, no, you want to play horse, you get on my back.
Right.
You want to do this, and so on and so forth. So I was one of the first, that said, I was one of the first women to play and coach alongside my male counterparts. I'm known as the Queen of Show Basketball. I've played over 2,000 entertainment basketball games around the world. And I'm just happy to be part of this discussion, learning more about what Mr. Holmes has gone through and how he's been able to be resilient, how he's able to display courage. And most people wouldn't do that.
That's true. That is so true.
Especially in New Jersey. So
concrete jungle.
I'm giving you your flowers while you're here.
That's beautiful. I love that. That is so beautiful. That is really beautiful.
So y'all have similar stories in terms of what happened to Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
And I say that to say this, like, once you both found out about your mutual stories, how was that reaction between the both of you? How were you able to, like,
connect?
Yeah.
Before you told me the story, I connected. It's like somehow you're drawn to like people.
Mm-hmm.
His soul is pure and powerful.
Yes, I'll give him that. Yes.
And he has a long reach. His love is long. So you see that. Most of us look at the physical, but if you listen to what's coming out of his heart, you know what type of man he is.
Mm-hmm. I respect
Well,
that.
I think what drew me to Coach was that I think basketball, first and foremost, was our thread. And I think hearing her speak and all of the different things that she's been through, what she's going through,
Mm-hmm.
what she's going to pave the way for others to maybe detour from, those were the things that wrapped around that initial thread as far as basketball to me. And she's a sister. And for that alone, we must manifest together, all of us.
I love that. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. So let me say something. Mr. Holmes, I want to thank you so much for being so patient with me because as you guys know, I'm in school and I work and I'm running this household. And Mr. Holmes has been so patient with me and so understanding. And I appreciate that because I know your time is valuable. So I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you being so patient with me. And I've dropped the ball a few times and I'm like, oh no, wait, I have to call him. I have to email him. And you encouraging me. And we just met. And I'm just like, I love that. And when she says your energy is pure and you speak from your heart, I've only known you for a little bit and I see that. And I love that. So, I want to give you your roses too.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I wanted, because our slot time is almost up, I wanted you to go ahead and shout out your book and tell us what it's about. Don't give us too much information, because if they want more, they need to go out and buy it. But go ahead and give us a little bit of information on your book.
The name of my book is entitled The Dark Side of the Court. Currently, it's in print right now. It's going to be sent out last week, so I should get it back maybe in about 3 weeks. My target date to release that book is March 26th. It's about a young man whose dreams were stolen both in the basketball court and the court of law. It's a story about a young man who took being a victim and turned it into a survivor. It's giving you a story of what actually happened to me. What I'd like to do and what I will do is, during the process of that, I believe you can let your readers know, and I'm thinking this here beginning relationship can build into something else.
Yes, sir.
In regards to your platform. Your platform is always out to be, and I thank you for allowing me to have this platform again. And like I said, I was passing through and I felt the energy from your podcast. I did a little eye hustling, and I feel as though that you should have this.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I really, truly appreciate that. So before we wrap it up, Mr. Holmes.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shaka. Go ahead, honey.
Like I said, I've been bothered this whole time by things going on here. So, if I'm asking a question that's already been answered, let me know.
Okay.
Do you plan on, or do you have any plans on opening a foundation or any type of help or counseling to people that's been through the same things that you and Miss Magic have been through?
Yes, sir. Currently, I am now with GK Venture Partners, and what we're establishing right now is a nonprofit that addresses directly to abuse in all forms of fashion, all colors, creeds, racial, ethnic, whatever it is. As you know, with foundations, it takes a little bit of time, but that doesn't stop me from still doing the things and serving my community. But again, I will be giving all of that information to the young lady, the queen here. And if you're on her show, you'll have that. And I hope that you would donate and support our cause.
I love that. I love that. Mr. Holmes, what advice would you give someone right now who may be watching this or hearing it, or maybe even a year from now, they come across this video right here? What would you tell them if they were somewhere in a dark closet and they did not know what to do or how to vocalize? Please give them some words of encouragement.
I would tell them to begin their process of becoming a victim to a survivor, because it isn't until then that you consider yourself a survivor. You'll begin to accept what happened to you, and you'll be able to heal from whatever has happened to you. But the advice that I would give them is pursue the path of becoming a survivor and not a victim.
Amen. I love that so much.
Who you are is not what happens to you.
Yes. And to add to that, what I want to leave us with is, no matter your story, no matter your journey, no matter what you've been through, do not beat yourself down, because often victims blame themselves. Predators have a hold on young men, young women, grown men. It is okay for you not to be okay. It is okay to break down. The moment you can break down and realize that what is happening to you is not okay is going to be the moment you can stand up and step forward and move away from your predators. I pray for everyone, and to any survivors out there, please keep pushing. Never give up. It is never too late to seek help. If you feel like you want to harm yourself and you don't have nowhere to turn to, we always advocate for the suicide hotline on this show. Make sure you reach out to anyone. It doesn't matter if it's your pastor, your sister. Just talk to someone and know that you are loved and you are worth it. But this has been the Lauren Hour podcast with Laura Dannon and Cass. We appreciate everyone. I want to thank my guest, Mr. Robert Holmes, for coming on. Miss Magic, I want to thank you. What is it, Lady Magic?
Yes,
thank you so much for coming on. And I am looking forward to seeing great things from the both of you guys. And everyone, make sure you guys tune in to the Lauren Hour podcast. On YouTube. Actually, it's the Lauren Hour Network on YouTube. And also check us out on Apple Music, Spotify, any major streaming services. And also please check out Mr. Holmes on Facebook and reach out to him and try to help his foundation grow, because he is out here trying to save lives. Because you never know, abuse can push someone to the edge and make them not want to be here anymore. And we're all about saving lives. Everyone be blessed and have a great night, y'all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you guys.
You guys get out of here. Appreciate you guys for stopping by, first of all.
Thank you.
You guys were amazing. Great work with what you guys are doing. Again, appreciate you guys for coming through, sharing, being part of this event. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's great to see a lot of different faces, a lot of different people telling stories. Since this thing has started, we have had so many dope people come through and just share and open up and be able to tell their story. And I'm a firm believer in you never know who might be helped from hearing your story. So I always try to tell people, you got to keep it real. You got to be yourself. And you guys came through and did that. Thank you guys for that. Appreciate you guys. If you guys feel like coming back later on and hanging out, more than welcome. It was supposed to be like show after show, but a lot of people have been just staying and hanging out and kicking with the other shows. So it's been a barbecue that hasn't ended. It's a sleepover that I wish would stop, but people just keep coming back. So apparently they like it. So again, thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Alora, definitely, I was already following you, but I did not know. That's the crazy thing, how social media works. You follow a lot of people, you network, you see them, and then you finally get to meet them.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. You
Continue
have
to
a
do
great
what you
night.
guys do. Be great. Be awesome. And thank you.
Thank you, too. Have a great night. Thanks for having us. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye.
I wish you could have seen that show. That was a great show. I don't know.